So I have this idea, and I don't know if it's gonna work. Honestly, I'm just gonna assume it's not gonna work. Imagine you have a can flying through the air. Maybe there's even wings flying on the can. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna pull that off, but it's flying through the air, arcs up, and then starts falling, and then lands into an Ender hero shot. It'd be relatively easy for me to make a commercial that's just cinematic shots of Red Bull. But what if I can actually give a can wings, have it fly through the air? I mean, that sounds super cool. It's an idea that's been in my head for a while, but I've kind of just been like, it'll look stupid. If it does look stupid, feel free to unsubscribe. But regardless, I'm giving a Red Bull can wings. I get nervous before every single one of these videos because I genuinely have no idea how I'm gonna pull this off, but we're gonna figure it out. The hardest part with these commercials is always getting a pristine product. When you actually take a look at these cans sitting in the store, like all of them have a little scratch or a nick or a dent. A lot of this stuff I should be able to take out or mask in post, but it's kind of just a pain. But I got everything I need, thankfully, so I'm ready to shoot this thing. All right, so obviously my setup is not complete. It's kind of a mess right now, but let me just start off by showing you some of the things I bought. So I actually bought this last night. This is just a black roll of paper. I'm gonna use this to cover the ping pong table I'm shooting on. After a little bit of work, I found a pretty good condition Red Bull 6-pack box, so I'm gonna be using that. And then I got 3 individual Red Bull cans, mainly because I want to get some shots before I destroy this box. It's actually important I keep it in good condition, so I got some more cans. And then I literally went back to Walmart because I forgot to grab this originally, but I got a small little spray bottle and I got some glycerin. I don't totally know what glycerin's actually for, but if you mix it half glycerin, half water, you can get a good little condensation effect. You spray the cans and it just kind of holds those beads of water that make it look like they're super cold. Maybe we're just pulled out of a cooler or something like that. So that's what these are for. All right, for this shot, I've already had the can spinning for a while. I'm gonna take my 50% glycerin, 50% water spray and spray the can so it looks like condensation and ice forms on it while spinning. I have no idea if this is gonna work. Sweet, so that's actually all the shots I need today. Pretty straightforward. The challenging part is gonna be figuring out how the heck I'm gonna make this look good in post. I'm a little nervous about that. So if you haven't seen a video like this before, it can be a little intimidating, but the setup is actually pretty straightforward. It's just important to dial everything in. For this commercial, the plan was to green screen the background for every shot, and then I covered the floor in black paper because I was planning on removing that as well. Now, I chose black paper over a green screen ground because when stuff are laying on the green screen, you can get a lot of light bleed as green color reflects onto all your products, and black is a pretty easy color to just feather out the edges, so it works pretty well as like a floor material. For lighting, I used a key light, a fill light, and sort of a light underneath to make the lighting relatively even on every product. And then for product movement, I used an electronic Lazy Susan, which is just a turntable that rotates at a constant rate, and this really helps your products feel 3D after you cut them out and paste them on a random backdrop. Okay, and as far as editing goes, this project was pretty tricky. Since I decided to green screen every shot and animate the products in post, the shots really aren't that interesting. I just got a bunch of different shots of things rotating, or a couple panning shots and some stationary shots, just enough that I could mess around and make something cool in post-production. Now, I can't explain every little detail and nuance. There's a lot going on here, but here's sort of a general overview. Alright, so the first shot is making the can fly, and this actually isn't incredibly complicated, but it does take a little bit of an artistic touch. The first step is to cut out the can. In After Effects, that's using Keylight 1.2, Key Cleaner, and Advanced Spill Suppressor. If you edit in Final Cut or DaVinci Resolve, there's ways of doing this as well. Once the can was cut out, I found some stock footage of wings flapping, and I parented those to the can. Next, I needed to make it look like the can was flying, and this just took some strategic keyframing. The first step is to keyframe the position of the can coming from outside of the frame to the middle, and while this is a good start, it doesn't look like flying. So next I added a little bit of rotation to the can to kind of simulate wings flapping. It starts out as uncontrolled big rotations and kind of like settles as the can gets to the middle of the frame. Combine that with a little creative lighting and a moving background, and you've got a pretty decent shot, which I actually ended up scrapping. I actually don't mind the overall aesthetic. The problem was I found a stock shot of that rushing background, and I wasn't gonna be able to match that with the other shots. It looked super cheesy having a bright blue background on kind of the more static shots. So I actually remade the entire background myself, relighting it, blurring it out for depth, and to re-simulate those motion lines, I used a free plugin called Saber made by Video Copilot. Honestly, remaking the background kind of sucked, especially after I already had something that technically worked, but it was important for a cohesive piece. Alright, shot number 2 is like the falling back to earth shot. The wings disappear from the can, and it starts falling towards the ender. To start things off, I cut out the Red Bull box, pasted that on a background, and then I cut out the can rotating, and wasn't really sure where to go from there. Thankfully, if I learned anything from college, it's that the answers are always online. I found this awesome video by a YouTuber named Austin Paul who did pretty much exactly what I wanted to do. In his video, he blurs and scales up the background as a fruit is spinning in the foreground, simulating that the fruit is falling and getting closer to the table. I thought this was super smart, and I wanted to apply the same technique to my shot, and I did, and it really didn't look that good. Maybe my background was too boring, maybe the animation was off, but I just really didn't think it looked realistic for me. I added a ton of lighting in post, kind of worked on the compositing, but the biggest thing I did was actually have the can falling faster than the camera. By starting with the can close to the virtual camera and falling into focus and then falling out of focus because it's falling faster, it really sells the effect more. It feels 10 times more realistic. I feel like with shots like this, the more things you can add, whether it's lighting, whether it's compositing, whether it's realistic physics, whether it's background blur and depth of field, every single one of those layers adds more immersion and makes the shot feel more real. Alright, and the last shot is the big finish, the big finale. There's a lot going on, but it's not terribly complicated. The first step is cutting out the can, cutting out the box, and keyframing the position of the can to just fall down to earth. I created a floor and background by just scaling and blurring the earlier shot, and then I added reflections by rotating both the box and the can 135 degrees and just blurring them out to kind of sell that reflection effect on the floor. I also relit the scene in After Effects and added a camera to simulate depth of field in my shot. And then using that same Saber plugin as earlier for the can flying through the air, I created some text animations that said Red Bull gives you wings. Honestly, it might be a little over the top, but I was just having fun with it and I felt like it fit the aesthetic of earlier. When it comes to stuff like this, I always say it's the little things that makes the biggest difference, right? Even if people don't know why a shot looks good, if you add a bunch of little details, they'll subconsciously notice. So of course we've got the water droplets falling down the can. We've got motion blur as it falls. We've got the reflection falling in perfect sync on the floor. The floor cracks from the impact of the can landing, and the can even wiggles on impact as if it's stabilizing after the fall. All of this for a 15-second commercial that looks like this. Alright, so there's a commercial I shot for Red Bull in my garage, and honestly, I'm stoked on it. And one of my favorite parts about these videos is they're relatively low budget. I mean, especially compared to hiring other people for projects or hiring actors, right? You can make these 100% by yourself, low budget. You could even shoot it on your phone if you really wanted to. Really, the only limit when it comes to making product commercials is your own knowledge and your own creativity. Anyways, that's it for me. If you want to see more videos like this, definitely consider subscribing. And as always, have fun, stay creative, and I'll see you all in the next one. I'll be gone in a day or two. Jeez. Are you ever singing along to songs and you think you're just nailing every pitch, every note perfectly? You know, because you're singing with the actual song, and then you turn off the music just for a sec, only to realize how bad you really are. Story of my life.